Just
Well, hi, Kim. How are you doing? Thanks for joining me today.
thank you for having me today, Irene. I'm so excited just to be in the same presence with you.
Me too. I'm so excited to be with you. As you know, I have a bunch of questions to ask you. The first thing I wanted to ask you is, tell me a little bit about yourself, your credentials as a court reporter, just you as a court reporter, your background.
Okay, I am an RPR certified reporter. I've been reporting for over, I don't want to age myself, so I'll just say over 20 years. Um, I mainly have been working in the official capacity at the Milwaukee County Courthouse. But as you know, as things have changed in our profession, I had to change with it. And so I decided that I wanted to do a little bit more freelancing. And so I got my feet wet. I went to a convention several years ago for the first time and started networking. And I just love the freelance world. So right now I'm doing freelancing and official court work. So I have the best of both worlds.
That is the best of both worlds. Well, it's amazing that you have all this experience. Why why did you choose a career in court reporting?
Well, I'm glad you asked. When I was a teenager, I always loved music. And I remember one of my favorite gospel um, groups. It was a boy band, and I just loved them. And I took all their songs and I wrote it in a booklet by hand, word for word. And I always just enjoyed writing. And so when I was in the 10th grade in my sophomore year, my typing teacher, oh, I love typing too. And so my typing teacher asked me, what do you want to do when you graduate from high school? And I said, oh, I think I want to be a paralegal secretary. And he was like, well, why would you want to be a paralegal secretary when the lawyers, they get all the credit and the paralegal does all the work? You should look into court reporting. And I had never heard of court reporting. And so I looked it up and I decided to go into court reporting.
Wow, that's amazing. That's an amazing story. And now it's like right up your alley. Right up your alley. Well,
Yeah.
can you share a funny reporting experience you've had during your career or funny case,
Well,
something you can share?
well, you know, I I've had so many cases, and most of them are very serious, of course, especially working in the courthouse. But I do remember being in family court and the judge asking, when people get divorced, usually they're just fighting and they they're talking about um, child care issues and different possessions. And so the judge asked um, the the husband, do you have everything? Has everything been separated? Do you have anything that belongs to your wife? Or does she have anything that belongs to you? And so the wife was like, no, I don't want anything from him. I have everything that I want. And so then the judge asked the husband, well, is there anything that you want that your wife has of yours? And he says, yes, my teeth. And we it took everything in us not to laugh. And the judge was like, your teeth. And he was, yeah, yes, my teeth. And so judge was like, do you have his teeth? And she said, yes, I still have it and he can have it. I'll give it to him. And so, yeah, I guess dentures are expensive. And so she had to turn them over.
That's so funny. That is the funniest. Well, do you have um a a memorable or challenging experience you had in court reporting that you want to share or can share?
all the time, all the time. I can think of a lot of them, but one of them I will share, and it was children's court. And so I after that experience, I knew I never wanted to go back to children's court after our tenure there. So we're doing a child protective case, and there was a little boy, and he had to have surgery, and so they had to get the mother to sign off on the surgery. He was in foster care at this point. And so he was at the hospital. He met his mom for the first time. He must have been about 6 years old. And he walked up to his mother, and he said, and this is testimony that's being told because they were terminating her rights. And the little boy went up to his mom and he says, "Are you my mother?" And she said, "Yes, I'm your mother." And he says, "Well, do you have a house?" And she says, "Yes, I have a house." And he says, "Well, can I come live with you?" And my heart just sunk when
Mm,
I heard that, because I was
mm,
like, is that asking too much? That
right.
he just wants to go home and be with his mother. And that helped me to see that no matter how awful parents were at, in children's court, those children always had a heart for their parents.
Right.
And
Always
no,
want to
no,
be with your,
always. And you don't get to pick your parents. When you're a child, you don't get to pick what family you come into. And so that stuck with me. And it was so heart-wrenching. And so I told my judge after we did our tenure in children's court, I said, "Judge, I know I told you I follow you wherever you go, but I'm not going back to children's court." I was like, I
yeah,
go to homicide court before I go back to children's court. But and he listened, and we never went back.
yeah.
That was a tough one. That was a tough one.
And it's pretty tough for judges too, because they're deciding the fate of this child.
Yes.
And is,
Yes.
is being with the biological parent better, or is
Right.
throwing them in in our system, our legal system
Right.
better?
Yeah.
Like it's kind of
Mhm.
a draw, like you don't know like what could be better.
Mhm.
You don't know what home this child is going to end up in, so it's a
Right.
struggle for a judge too.
Yeah.
Tough
Yeah.
court. It's a tough court.
Yeah.
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 Well, I'm going to shift gears a little bit.
Okay.
What advice would you give to somebody who is looking into a career of court reporting?
I would say if you enjoy learning new things, being challenged, working hard, working weekends, nights, um, then this is the career for you. But if this career, being a court reporter, is not for the faint of heart. That's what I would say. If you want to make good money and you want to work hard, this is the career for you. If you enjoy the legal system, um, and I would say this, we're in a customer service. This is a service. And a lot of times court reporters don't realize that they are providing a service. You are not here for to be served. You are here to serve. And if you have that mentality, then you will be just fine.
Yeah, exactly. We are
Right.
providing, we're the guardians of the record.
Yes,
We
the
guard that
guardians of the
record.
record.
Yeah,
And you are providing a service by protecting that record.
right, right. It's a big career.
Hmm.
I know people don't really know about it, but it's a really great career.
Yes. And I would say another thing about court reporting is it's very versatile. It is one of those, if you want to do transcripts, you can do work hard and do transcripts and make lots of money, or you can do real time or in closed captioning and not look at the transcript. If you want to be a closed captioner, you don't ever have to look at transcripts. You write it and it's gone. And you are helping hard of hearing in our deaf community. It's so many ways that court reporters can be of service. It's so versatile. Um, and so I that's what I enjoy about court reporting.
Right. Like just like you said, you even went from court into freelance, doing
Yeah,
depositions, and you have the the opportunity to switch back and forth if you so
yeah.
choose, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, what advice would you give a court reporting student currently in school, but maybe they're stuck at a speed or something? What advice would you give that student?
I I am of the belief I am a pro court reporter. And when I call myself a pro court reporter, I enjoy the profession and I enjoy encouraging others. And so if you're a court reporting student and you're stuck at a certain speed, I would say don't give up. Be positive. I would say read your notes. I would say relax, and just keep reading your notes and don't give up. A lot of times you're right at the cuff and you think that, oh, I just can't do this. I can't do this. And I always remembered when I was in school, I had a friend who was always encouraging me. And I felt like when I was at 180, I was like, I can't get to the next speed. I don't understand. And I got reminded, my friend reminded me, do you remember when you were at 80 words a minute? And I'm like, yeah. You remember when you were at 100? I'm like, yeah. You could do it. You could do it. And so I look at court reporting like you should never feel like I have arrived when you get to a certain speed. I have arrived because you work so hard to get those three takes at 95%, 98%. Well, in my school it was 98%, and you worked so hard to get to 100 words per minute, and you're like, woohoo. And then it's like, oh, don't get excited because now you got to get to 120 and you get bumped down to 120 and it's like starting all over. And I think it's a lot like life. Like when you get that nice brand new shiny car and you're all excited, and then a couple of months later you see a little chip or a dent, and then it's lost its luster a little bit, but you still hold on to what you have. And so I think court reporting keeps you balanced, and it's a lot like life. You just you never arrive. You should never be complacent.
That's really insightful. I appreciate that. Uh, did you, well, and it could be, during school, it could be after, during your career or anything, but did you ever have a teacher or a mentor that helped you, like how you were talking about, keep you going, not
Mhm.
giving up, or made a difference in your career? It could be from different areas of your life, meaning it doesn't have to be, um, 20 years ago when you were in school or
Well, I think I would say that I just had a lot of faith, and I still do. I'm a believer that you have to stay positive. And I just remember being in school, and I remember asking myself, which pain do you want? Do you want the pain of giving up, or do you want the pain of keep going? And so I chose the pain of I'm going to keep going, because anytime you want to have something that's worth having, you many times you have to fight for it. You have to work for it. You have to, I mean, we look at different sports athletes, and they will tell you they put in the time, they practice. When you see Stephen Curry and you see the different and I said Stephen Curry, but when you see even football players, they don't put that time in when you're watching them.
right, or
They
Williams sisters, or yeah,
Yes,
any sport.
any sport, they put in the time before you see them. And that's how court reporting is. You have to put in and practice and put the time in before you get on the job and life, so that you can see reap the benefits.
Right. Right. I agree.
So I would say that the for me, I did have a lot of positive people, but I also had that positive um aspect in my life of having faith. Like, which do you want to give up? Because if you give up, you're gonna have pain giving up, saying, "Oh, I didn't do this," and I have to live with this, you know, feeling of what would it have been like if I hadn't given up, versus, "Oh, it's painful to keep going." So I chose that pain,
Right.
keep
Allowing
going.
defeat to take over
Yes,
or not.
right, right. Yeah. And
Right.
another thing I think about is Kevin Durant. He talked about, he has this saying, and he talks about, because some people are just talented, and there are some people that you hear about in court reporting and they say, "Oh, they're just the natural." And Kevin Durant says, hard work beats talent when talent fails to work hard. And I always remember that, because you can see a lot of talented people, but I think when you have talent plus working hard and you mix it together, then you're unstoppable.
Right. Right. Having talent may help you for a little while,
Right.
but it's going to end because at the end of the day,
Mhm.
you need to be working hard.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, why do you love court reporting? Why do you love court reporting?
Well, I would say that again, I love words. I love the details. I love the finished product. I love the um aspect of, you never know what you're going to hear. It's
Yeah.
so it's not boring. It's a very exciting career, and you just never know. You can't just say, "Oh, been there, done that." You can get on a case and you'll be like, "I thought I heard it all until I was on
Right.
until I was in this deposition. I no, I have not heard it all." And I think that's what I like about court reporting, is that you can never say, it's just, I'm a student of life. That's my belief. I believe that if you want to achieve things, you have to be willing and open minded, and court reporting helps you to be that, because unless you're always just taking the same saying, I don't know. I don't want to put anyone down who does a certain thing in court reporting, but I don't I don't think that you get to a point where you can say it's a boring field, because it's always something new to learn. And even the aspect of uh when you learn your software, when you think about, people don't realize when it's time, there are some people that have that machine, that little machine that we write on, and they're good at it.
Right.
But then you that's not the end. You have to produce a transcript. And I think that when you have a certain software and you have to know how to navigate and move certain text around, that is that is also keeping your brain, keeping you young, because you're constantly learning, and you got to be able to um, function within your software. And that's another aspect of using your brain. I don't know if that makes any sense, but
Yeah.
people just think of us as just on that little bitty machine, but we also have to transcribe and produce.
Right. Right. There's the whole editing of
Full editing, that's what I'm trying to say.
yeah, of the transcript
Mm-hmm.
after the
Mm-hmm.
proceeding. So we're not just sitting in there. Uh,
Right,
because a lot of people think that, oh, you're just sitting in there typing and it must be really easy.
right.
But it's actually quite challenging, but it is
Mhm.
also very rewarding at the same
Yeah.
time.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I know. I just had like, talk about not knowing, what you're gonna get. I just, just had proceedings where the attorney was asking the usual questions like have you taken any medications that could impair your ability to recall events and to testify accurately, and he said like, oh yeah, took some antidepressants or something, and then
Hmm.
he asked, have you taken any illicit drugs, right?
Hmm.
And then he's like, ever in my whole life? Grew up in the 70s. Hello.
Right. Like, don't ask me that question. You
Yeah,
know the
it's
answer.
just funny. Just even like the
Yeah.
characters you uh
Hmm.
come, run into.
Yeah. Yeah. That reminds me of sometimes when I would be on a jury trial and they would do voir dire. The attorneys
Uh,
would ask and say to the jurors, is there anyone here um who just doesn't believe that the defendant is innocent until proven guilty? Is there anybody here who does not want to be here? And I could just see myself raising my hand and it's like, okay, Kim, just don't have an out of body experience. Keep your hands on the machine, So, yeah, I've had those moments too. I'm like, oh, I'm so glad I don't have a LED screen on my
I know that shows your thoughts. Yeah.
right.
Well, I have one last question for you.
Okay, I'm ready.
What do you wish an attorney would do or would not do to make your life
Oh, there's so many of those. That's a whole list of
easier?
um one thing I would say, I'll just say one, and that is I just wish attorneys realized how much effort it takes to have that finished product. So when we are you know, in in court or even on a deposition, and they're saying things, and then you ask the witness to repeat, and then they repeat it for that witness. I wish they wouldn't do that. I wish they would. I it's that one of my pet peeves is when the attorney will say, "Well, she said blah 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 blah," and I want to say, "I didn't ask you what she said." So I wish they wouldn't do that, and I just wish they understood that if you are a good reporter, an excellent reporter, you want them to have an excellent product, and you want them to realize that we don't just push a button and outcomes, even if you're a real-time writer, um, outcomes what they it takes a lot of effort to be able to protect the record and give them a finished product. I wish they understood that. Maybe some of them do, but I think some of them don't realize it. I think they feel like, oh, they're sitting behind that machine and they're writing what we're saying. They know they're supposed to speak one at a time. They do know that they should speak slowly, but they still don't realize the word for word.
Right.
Do
And
a 200-page transcript,
and
word for
for
word.
and the reason why you want an attorney to not say she said this or he said that,
Mm-hmm.
is what?
It's because it is not they may not have repeated it exactly the way that person said it, and when they do say it, it's in colloquy of what they said, not what the witness said. So I just it changes things
Mm. And
for
then
me.
when an attorney will say, oh, well, he said this, this, and that, do you end up putting in the record that the attorney said, she
Yeah,
said, or he said
yeah,
this and that?
yes, it changes. It
Right.
changes.
So kind
Oh,
of muddles up the record.
yes, yes. And it was so funny just about a week ago. I had a attorney who all throughout the hearing, it was not a very long hearing, but the witness said that he had the no, norovirus. It wasn't coronavirus. It was the, have you heard of the
No.
norovirus? It was some virus. And so at the end, the attorney said to the other the taking attorney, my client said that he had the norovirus. Can we just agree that we take that part out? Kim, you can just put illness. Um, if is that okay, Kim? You just put illness because I want that redacted. And I said, well, counsel, I hear what you're saying, but I can't change what he said. So what I did was I did end up redacting what the witness said, but I did have at the end that he did not want it repeated. And so every time that term came up, I redacted that term and said, can you put illness? And I had to put that in there so that the record reflect what
Mm.
their wishes were. But I can't
Yeah,
change the record.
right. Like, and did the noticing council agree to that?
Yes, he agreed. He wanted me to take it out, and I'm like, I can't take it out.
Right, right.
So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. Okay, well, thank you so much for spending, your afternoon with me. I really, really appreciate getting to know you and your stories about court reporting. Thank you for sharing.
Well, thank you for having me, and I hope I didn't talk too much or
No, you are perfect.
wordy. Okay, great,
You're
great,
perfect.
wonderful. Thank you.